Lateral pelvic tilt, where one hip appears or feels higher than the other, is a common postural presentation that unfortunately has a lot of misinformation surrounding how to best improve motion in this type of pelvis. For example, if you've simply been told you need to just shift the other way, you're probably not getting as good of a change as you could. And that's because working on hip shifts or even hiking the other side doesn't always restore the segmental motion that you need to acquire if you actually want to reduce a hip hike or improve your lateral pelvic tilt. But that's gonna change today, because in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to get those improvements that you so desire in the pelvis so you don't always feel like you're shifted to one side. And if you stick around to the end and you work through this progression, I'm gonna show you a movement that is going to improve your hip mobility an insane amount. But before we dive into that, we have to understand the biomechanics behind lateral pelvic tilt, because if we don't, we're not gonna get as good of an understanding in improvements in our mobility. Lateral pelvic tilt is when one hip appears higher than the other, and it's named for whatever direction the spine is facing. So if my right hip is higher, I have a left lateral pelvic tilt. If my left hip is higher, I have a right lateral pelvic tilt. This tilt changes the available motion in the pelvis. Whatever side the hip is hiked on, I have an increase in internal rotation and a loss of external rotation. On the flip side, the lower pelvis has a loss of internal rotation and often has increased, or what appears to be increased, external rotation. When I can improve these rotations, this actually allows the sacrum to rotate a slight amount. The movement here is really small, but what will change is the pelvic floor muscle activity. And that's really the key that you need to improve the lateral pelvic tilt or hip hike. And where most people run into problems is relying purely on static posture or how they feel. There's a lot of evidence out there showing that your hip structurally may not be built the same side to side. You can have one side of the pelvis have a bigger bone than the other. Sometimes there can be rotation in the pelvic bone itself on one side compared to the other, and this can create false positives, and if you don't know what you're looking at, it's probably gonna limit your outcome. So what you have to do instead is you have to measure your rotation. If you have a lateral pelvic tilt, you will have a loss of external rotation on the side that's hiked up, and you'll have a loss of internal rotation on the side that's hiked down. And there's one test you can do that will solve all of this confusion quickly. And it's sitting in a 90-90 or Z-sit position. When you sit in this posture, you have hip IR on the back leg and you have hip ER on the front leg. If you sit back as far as you can in the hips, what should happen is you should have both knees flush against the ground. If you can't get the front leg all the way down, that's the side you have the lateral pelvic tilt towards. The front leg is externally rotating. So if I can't externally rotate, the hip will be hiked on that side. So if you can't get the right leg down, you have a hip hike on the right side. If you can't get the left leg down, you have a hip hike on the left side. Now I have no doubt, as you've been doing this, some of you probably can't get either side down. Well, guess what? You're not ready to address the lateral pelvic tilt. You have something that you need to address before in order to get the outcome that you want. Because when you're limited on both sides, you essentially have a lateral tilt on both sides of the pelvis, which is an anterior pelvic tilt. This presentation has increased muscle activity in the top half of the pelvis, and this has to be addressed in order for you to actually get changes within the lateral tilting problem. Don't worry, keep sticking around, because I'm gonna show you strategies for all three of those presentations. And if you can work through this progression, I guarantee you're gonna have a better feeling in your hips, and you're probably gonna have a better resting position in your posture. The first move is a Swiss ball weight shift. You'll wanna grab a Swiss ball, put it between the shins and your hands. You'll weight bear on 4 points. each PSIS, which is the top bony part of the pelvis, and in between the shoulder blades. Take a breath of air in through the nose. On the exhale, shift your weight to 1 PSIS in upper back. You don't have to unload the opposite side, but that is a progression. You have to make sure that you weight bear evenly across those 2 points. Hold that position, breathe in through the nose, exhale, roll to the other side. You're gonna alternate weight bearing between each side. Try 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 10 rotations per side, 2 times per day for 2 to 4 weeks. Once you've mastered that, progress to a wall squat. For this, you want to be your foot length away from the wall. You want to weight bear on 3 points: the PSIS, the inner heel, and the base of the big toe. You can put a band around the knees so you can keep the knees centered. Slide down into a quarter squat, holding a kettlebell at chest height and keeping your eyes forward. Silently breathe in through the nose, soft exhale through the mouth. Go 5 sets of 5 breaths, 2 times per day for 2 to 4 weeks. For these next 2 moves, you want the limited leg to be the down leg. So if your right leg was up in the air, as I'll show in this video, that's the leg that you want outside knee contact. We'll start with 5-month breathing. Lie on your side. Take your top arm and leg and log roll your torso so you're contacting 2 points: the bottom outside knee and the bottom outside elbow. If you can't sense those points, I would recommend putting wedges under your thigh and your arm. Take a silent breath of air in through the nose. On the exhale, you want to press yourself upward through these 2 points at a 3 to 4 out of 10 effort. Don't whip into place as you do it. You want to slowly ramp into position. Silently breathe in through the nose, softly exhale through the mouth, keeping that 3 to 4 out of 10 pressure. You do not want to sag between breaths. Do 5 sets, 5 breaths, 2 times per day for 2 to 4 weeks. You can then progress to the low Z-sit, which adds some rotation to increase your motion. Get in that 90-90 test position, make a C with your bottom hand, and then rotate it downwards so you weight bear through the pisiform, which is this wiggly bone that's on the pinky side of your hand. Do a subtle roll of your entire body forward. As you do this, the bottom outside knee should contact the ground. If it does not, go ahead and wedge that bottom leg. Take a silent breath in through the nose. On the exhale, you want to push yourself up through 3 points: the pisiform, the bottom outside knee, and the back inside knee. If you get it right, you'll feel bottom abs, front leg glute, back leg inner thigh. Slowly ramp up the pressure. Do not whip into place. Another issue people will do on this is they'll slide the knee to get up into position. You want those points grounded. Hold this position, maintain that 4 out of 10 pressure. Silently breathe in through the nose, softly exhale through the mouth. Do not release the pressure at any point in time. Do 5 sets of 5 breaths, 2 times per day for 2 to 4 weeks with that. Then progress to a front foot elevated split squat with a slant. This helps for 2 reasons. One, when you raise the front leg, you're actually unweighting it. That is needed to load into that hip without driving into that lateral tilt. Doing this on a slant also limits the lateral tilt because it biases the leg to more external rotation, which that leg needs. Keep the eyes looking straight ahead. Hold a kettlebell at chest height. Silent breath in through the nose. Exhale at the start. On the inhale, keeping the knees soft, you want to drop straight down as if you're in a phone booth. Only go about a quarter of the way. If you get it right, you're gonna feel your front quad and some glute doing the work. If you feel mostly the back leg, keep the knees bent and think about pushing off from the back big toe. This will load into the front leg more. Hold this position for 5 sets, 5 breaths, 2 times per day for 2 to 4 weeks. The last move is a lateral squat. Each of the last 3 moves were focused on loading into the side that was tilted. Once you've mastered that, Now you can work on shifting to the other side, and the likelihood of you just orienting your pelvis is limited. We'll use a lateral squat for this. Your pushing leg this time is going to be the side where the hip was higher. So if my right hip was high, I'm going to use that to push into the left side. Get a stance that's slightly wider than hip width. You're going to sense each inner heel and base of the big toe on both feet. Take a silent breath in through the nose. On the exhale, use the hiked side to push yourself into the unhiked side. So in this case, my right hip is the hiked side. I'm going to use that foot to push me into the left. If you do it right, you're going to have a straight line from your eye to your chest, to your hip, to your knee, to your foot. You'll also notice that the pelvis becomes tilted in the opposite direction, but it's not done through an orientation. You can hold this position and breathe at the start, like we've done with all the other moves, but if you want to progress it, you're going to exhale and push and load into that side, inhale back to the start. Try 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 reps with that move. Once you've taken care of that tilt, the best thing you can do is actually work on improving your squat depth. The deeper you can squat, the better your hip mobility is going to be. If you care about improving your mobility, then I would check out this video right here, because it's the squat progression that I use with a lot of patients and clients to improve their mobility and get them to squat deeper.